What up, y'all? We're here for our midweek alchemy message where we are taking a deeper look into the process of all of our spiritual lessons this week. So, from the wild unknown archetypes, the wild unknown alchemy, rather. I was just thinking about the fact that on Mondays we do our anchor message, and that's when we pull our cards from Wild Unknown Archetypes and the Mystical Moments Tarot, and it gives us our spiritual assignments for the week. This is when we take a deeper look at how we're approaching our spiritual assignments, and we have been using the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck, which the Alchemy deck is perfect because it's all about the process of transformation. So awesome for us. Okay. So from Wild Unknown Alchemy, we got Copper, or Eris, Conjunctio, or Conjunction, and Uranus, or Uranus. Underneath Copper, we pulled Page of Cups. Underneath Conjunctio, we pulled the Tower. And underneath Uranus, we pulled Two of Pentacles. Alrighty, so overall, if I had to synopsize this reading in a brief way, I would say that the more that we are getting to the root of our subconscious motivators and our core wounds that we've been looking at, they've really been coming up over the past month and a half or so in a focused, specific way for us to see. And to see our triggers and to see our patterns when those things arise. And as we've been doing this and as we become more aware of it, we've been able to shift by choosing differently in those moments. We've been able to restrict ourselves from going into that default reactive behavior. And instead, we've been able to slow down some and observe ourselves and observe the stories around those and begin to unravel them some. And so the more that we've been doing that, the more that we've been opening ourselves up and setting ourselves up for like a sudden growth spurt, sudden evolution, sudden blessings to come in. Essentially, we've been preparing the vessel. And so we've been preparing the vessel to receive all of these new experiences and up-leveled opportunities and healthier relationships with our family and our friends and our coworkers and our potential love partners, right? So we're healing and things are shifting on the inside. And as the shift on the inside is occurring, it's starting to become much more evident on the outer world, in our material world. And so now it's about, the challenge that we're meeting now is just taking it slow and beginning to slowly practice the embodiment of this higher version of self. And so the more adaptable and flexible we are right now to begin to shift our perspectives and our mindsets, to shift our routines and our habits and things toward what it needs to look like to build that fulfilling potential, that fulfilling future where we actually start to blossom into our full potential, right? And we're starting to align with, the more we get rid of these preconceived notions that are false or things that we've materialized because our ego is making defense mechanisms, right? The more we get rid of those, the more we get rid of the false masks we've put on to try to disguise our shadow and to blend in better and to be more palatable for other people and to try to people please, essentially. We've dulled ourselves and we've separated, or we've gotten lost from our true core self, our authentic self. So the more that we break through those false layers of the self that aren't really us, we become more aligned with our authenticity, right? And it's like our vibration and our resonance is just changed, and it's rising, and it's more on pitch to our true native frequency. I don't know how you would say that. Would it be like your native pitch? Like, I've grown up around music because I'm from Nashville, but I'm not a musician and I'm not like trained in music. So like, for instance, you can buy harmonicas in different keys and different pitches, but like, that's a bad example because it can't fall out of tune. But say like you had, like if your piano's out of tune, I can't find the right way to describe this, but the more that we can get rid of the things that aren't really us, and we're not even becoming, we're just allowing ourselves to now be the natural, like true us that we've always been from our core. And you'll remember it's like things from childhood, like, oh yeah, that was always part of my personality. I always loved this, or that really lit me up or brought me to life. It's like those things start coming back, right, into your awareness. And so the more that we are being ourselves like that, free to really, express ourselves truthfully and with integrity and not putting on airs, then we're in this, like, we're in our native frequency, and we're not going up and down, because we're not trying to be something that we're not. And so it's sustainable. We can relax into our true selves. And so the more that we do that, it's like the more stable our signal becomes because we're not having to force it, it's just natural. And so that's very sustainable because we don't have to make an effort to force anything there, to be something that we're not. And so when we are being our natural, authentic selves, it's like there's this base level frequency that then can sustain and send out a clear signal. And then something that truly matches with that, the things, the opportunities, the jobs, right? The companies that'll be just the right office culture to work for, the right clients, the right gigs that are going to give you like the most amazing experiences. If you decide to go on a trip somewhere, for instance, and you're like, oh, let's get an Airbnb. It's like the perfect one will like come right to you. You'll find the right collaborators and you'll be drawn to the right friends and the right suitors, right? And things may even in existing partnerships it may transform existing partnerships. How the transformation goes is up in the air because sometimes people like the old way, right? Sometimes change, when you become more authentic, it's not necessarily like everybody around you is going to be like, oh, great. Sometimes this is going to ruffle some feathers, right? But what's not in alignment and what's dissonant will work its way out of your surroundings. And, those who are not going to leave, like family and people like that who are in your intimate circle, it's just like you just have to learn, this is part of the adjustment, right? But having said that, the things that you draw in that resonate with that true you, they're going to be more sustainable and more fulfilling because it's not going to be something that you're going to have to force, right? There's going to be resonance. There's going to be magnetism. And so there's like when you look at a wave and the wave resonates, it's easy for them to stay together, right? But if they don't resonate, there's dissonance. This is what it's like when you're trying to like force something that's not a vibrational match to you. It's chaos. Nothing goes well, right? We're wanting this. We're wanting harmony. We're wanting continuity. So the more that we're healing and the more that we're getting rid of these like subconscious patterns and defense mechanisms and things, it's like, oh, finally, like things we're starting to like radiate our true essence. And so then it's allowing us to really start to embody this up level, right? It's like first, like our perceptions and our mind and our consciousness have shifted, and our hearts and our emotions have been, we've been healing those and regulating them, and, finding balance. We've been working on healing our nervous system and our subconscious, right? So these things are all starting to align, and then life is just starting to blossom. And really beautiful things are about to come in, and they're so close. So, like, for the last several days, the universe, all of our messages have been like, prepare yourself to be able to receive. Prepare yourself with your own relationship with self that can sustain successful things coming in, right? If you have new friendships coming in, right, you got to keep up with new friends. If you have, new love relationships starting, like, those take effort. If you're up leveling at work, you're going to have new tasks and responsibilities or new things to learn. So, like, we have to get ourselves in a state where we're not doing and wasting our energy on things that aren't valuable to us anymore, that aren't in alignment with our values, that are just there because somebody else put them there, right? We need to get serious about ourselves, and we need to get focused. And so we are using our resources and our attention intentionally. And because of that, like, big change is happening, and really big blessings are coming in. So with copper is, I'm actually just going to read this because I can sit here and tell you this, but when you hear the similarities and like the connections with when I'm going to read you the oracle cards, I think it'll hit different. Okay, so copper, fertility, the womb, and Venus. In ancient times, on an island called Cyprus, copper was mined extensively to make vessels and tools. This island is the same fertile ground of Aphrodite, the goddess associated with the planet Venus and the forces of love, pleasure, and fertility. Such is the magic of copper. This golden-hued metal elicits delight and mystique, even a sense of awe. The copper card marks the arrival of Eros into the laboratory. It is likely the alchemist has been hard at work for too long, prioritizing scholarly pursuits over sensual pleasure. Get ready for a shift of priorities, for an awakening of the heart and the life-generating centers of the body. In the true alchemical experiment, nothing is excluded or separate from the work. Bring sensuality into the fold. Embrace it with reverence and curiosity. Aphrodite smiles upon you. Chocolate contains copper, which is, I've been really eating a lot of chocolate this week. Though bright and warm when polished, copper quickly oxidates, turning green or blue. Discern if a metaphorical polishing is in order. The esoteric wisdom traditions, Venus and copper are associated with the kidneys. A letting go is likely required in order to embrace Eros with open arms. So yes, like, a rebirth of spirit is coming. So we need to get rid of, we've already been letting go of old grief, old sorrow, old resentment and anger and disappointment and old shadow aspects of self that, have been hidden. And so all these things have kind of been coming up and we've been purging. And so now it's opening us up to this next level and this new cycle starting. So we're coming to the end of a long and arduous cycle of learning, of growing, of changing, of transformation. Probably a lot of your old life has crumbled away, and it's like you are rebuilding again. This is like a sudden change too. It's like all of a sudden, after all this time, feeling like the needle was never going to move forward, it's like suddenly things begin to click and come together. Conjunctio. A unity of a divine union is coming together. Now, this is like, generally speaking, things are starting to come together. But there could be new relationships coming together, whether that be collaborations, friendships, deepening of bonds in existing family, relationships, friends, etc. Maybe new friends, new partnerships, and maybe new romance. Because we've also got, and this can come in very suddenly. And I feel like because we've been doing this work for a long time, and we've been slowly and yet quickly changing for a few years now, and maybe even longer than that. And at some points we may have been like, is anything ever going to change? Like, is anything going to bear fruit? Is it just going to be like an endless effort with like nothing, no results? Like, what is going on? And I think very suddenly it's just going to be like, whoa, oh my gosh, all of a sudden things are working out. Holy crap, I got to get my shit together. So when I say be ready to receive, I mean, for example, if my channel were to suddenly go viral, it's like, do I have my ducks in a row to monetize in all the ways that I need to or that I could, right? Do I have like affiliate links ready to go to Amazon? And do I have like my shop all set up? And do I have, these and these things in place? Do I have a plan do you have a plan? If you're wanting to call in, larger amounts of money, do you have a plan of what you're going to do with that money in order to create wealth that can generate wealth? Because if you get all of these things and you're not prepared to put things where they belong, then you can just squander all of your blessings and your success just because you weren't quite ready. It's like, we were talking about the other day, if you got like a big wardrobe all of a sudden, but you don't have anywhere to put your clothes because it's like all your old clothes are there, right? So we've got to make room and make space. Yeah. And so I think just like there's going to be a renewed sense of like connection and even like better, like deeper intimacy and bonds and like kind of sweetness within friendships and family. I think these things are improving, but I do think that we might have like a real like soulmate, like a new cycle with soulmates coming. And this can be, a kindred friend that you are like, have the best time with and the best connection with. This could be coming into, your world. It could be a new love interest where, you're just like, oh, wow, you really get each other and you just have a great time, or it can be a new creative partner where you're like, oh, I really get where you're coming from. Like, I love your vision. Like, I love working together. Like, it's, you can express what I'm thinking and all of that. So this is like, two people who can really appreciate each other and see eye to eye. The Page of Cups can also be an offer or an invitation or a positive message, a love message even. So it could be that we could have, love coming in or communication, things of that nature. So it's sweet energy and it's exciting and it could mean lots of different things. And I think it is because the Copper card is associated with Venus. And so Venus rules, and we've been talking about this all week, love and money, abundance, beauty, art, everything around you that makes you feel enriched and sensual, right? Venus loves a beautiful meal, coursed out with, flavors and dimensions. Venus loves incense and perfumes and candles and artwork and, textiles and pillows. Think about the Empress card, right? She's sitting there, surrounded in beautiful pillows and, fabrics and patterns and flowers and plants and nature. She's abundant, but she's surrounded in comfort, security, riches, and beauty, not just accumulated material possessions, but beauty. It doesn't have to be an accumulation of wealth. It can be knowing how to curate your life and feel a sense of luxury in small, simple things. And I think that that's where we begin to really live a richness as far as a material sense, with life. It's like we can't I think people spend so much time wanting these things, right? Oh, I want a name brand this and I want this and that. And they keep wanting these like commercial purchases and possessions, but do they really enjoy, like the richness or the fullness of when they go out to eat or when they go on a trip? Are you paying attention to all of the visuals that you're not used to seeing, architecture that you're not used to looking at? When you're at home, right? And you've got a weekend, and instead of thinking that you have to spend a bunch of money and go out to like a really fine dinner in order to feel like you've got something, luxurious and special to look forward to, it's like you could probably make yourself like a really great cheese board, from the grocery store, and cook yourself a beautiful meal and, do it like you can do small low-key things to make yourself feel beauty and like sensual and taken care of, that won't break the bank and don't take a lot of effort, right? Like for me, if I can get a really good candle that I like every week, I'm like, that goes a long way. There's little things. So we don't have to think elaborately or extravagantly with surrounding ourselves with like romance and beauty. And I think that by surrounding ourselves with these sensual pleasures like that, it generates more of the same, and it attracts more of the same, and it makes you feel abundant, and therefore it attracts more abundance. But I do think that the things that, like, all of our healing and all of the work that we've been doing and the personal transformation, and most importantly, we've been setting intention paired with self-sacrifice. And so because of that, and because of Jupiter moving into Taurus, it's like we're expanding these Venus themes, right? And so now it's like we have more opportunities because we're being more aligned with our authentic self. Okay, aligning with possibilities and opportunities that will align us with, our goals and dreams that we're passionate about. Maybe you have a side hustle or a talent, right? Or some skill that you are passionate about and talented with, that all of a sudden starts, you start getting momentum and people start recognizing you for this, and you start getting successful here. You get opportunities in that area that really lights you up, that brings you, fulfillment, but that is your gift, your talent. Perhaps, you start doing better at work and you start making more money and you start earning more, cash abundance. That's always great. Or you could be suddenly gifted with a bunch of like things to put in your house. Like, who knows? Abundance can come in so many different forms and in so many different ways. It doesn't always have to be the check, you get a check in the mail, or you get money, or your salary increases. It doesn't always have to be that way. Sometimes you can manifest something that would have costed you a bunch of money, and you could get it for free. I have manifested, I can't tell you how many pieces of like fashion items that are roughly $300 to $500, and I never asked out loud for them, and I wanted them in my mind, and I didn't have a lot of attachment to it, and I had no intention of buying them, but I was like, oh, that would be really great. And lo and behold, through different people and places, people throwing away their Goodwill bag, I happen to have like, kind of a 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon, like people who are stylists and like hair stylists and stuff for country music artists, right? So their Goodwill bags get given to their hairstylist, right? And then that hairstylist has her Goodwill bag, which is like all the, celebrity rich people stuff left over. And then that makes it over to me, right? And so then I get these things that are like very lightly used, and you know what I mean? So expansion in Venus. Beauty, love, money, security. This is thinking about the big vision of long-term wealth versus short-term gratification, right? Setting yourself up to invest in things that can earn you passive income, right? That will make your money grow itself over the long term, right? And yes, so sudden change, very sudden. I'm actually just going to go ahead and read conjunctio. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I think there might be key words that could stand out and remind me of things that I meant to talk about. Conjunctio. Love, divine union, and infinity. Conjunctio is the great alchemical operation of love. During this stage, we witness the miraculous work of two opposites merging to create a unique third form. Sun and moon unite to reveal the entire cosmos. Black and white unite to reveal the spectrum of color. Unlike coagulatio, conjunctio represents a conscious and benevolent union, one that springs forth from awareness, acceptance, and devotion. It is not a compromise, but rather an activation, a holding of tension and presence that allows each of the entities to thrive and express themselves. Experiencing conjunctio is one of the blessings of the human experience, whether the bond is with human, nature, or divinity. Recognize it by the stirring of your heart and an element of surprise. Through opposites arises the infinite. The alchemist is patient and true to their own heart. Remember the authenticity thing. Do not be fooled by preconceived images of what conjunctio looks like. Love is creative and therefore seeks new forms. Take note if this card appears in the vicinity of alchemical wedding or the Venus card. If so, the message of love is resonating loud and clear. So we don't have the Venus card, but we do have copper, which is associated with Venus. And then in a lot of other instances this week, we had the Knight of Cups. We've got, I'm just looking over at our daily pick of cards. We've had the Lover come up with the archetypes. We had Six of Pentacles, the equal reciprocity and exchange. And then today with Ace of Pentacles on the daily pick a card, it actually came up with two cards together, but I was in such a rush that I decided to just make it simple and clean and just take the one card. But when I got home, I noticed that the other card, I never looked at it, was the Lovers. So decisions, right? Like why points in our destiny. Destiny points are happening. Timeline points, right? And this is a time where we have to make decisions from the heart, decisions that are true to us, that are true to the feelings deep in our soul, right? We've got to be true to ourselves and true to our hearts. Not the wounded heart that would lead us astray, but that purest part of the heart that speaks the truth. Also, there was, so I mentioned this last night, but Phil, as in Phil Good, he's like a personality, a light worker, coach person. But he was talking about last night on one of his videos that I just happened to scroll past. He was like, if you're seeing this, you're at the tail end of a 3 to 5 year period of growth, expansion, of change, of healing. But it's been like really strenuous and difficult and like arduous. So much work. He's like, you've probably been building and building and building things towards your goals and dreams and just like wondering when it'll ever end. Just what I was talking about earlier. And he's like, we're at the tail end of that and things are going to start expanding. And he was like, you're going to be starting to live the life that you were meant to live, that you are going to be in your purpose, that like suddenly things are going to blow up. And basically just what we've been talking about on this channel too. So I was like, oh my God, yes, totally that we are as well. So that was very comforting to hear, and confirmed also that like he was getting the messages that like we're at the tail end of this thing that's been really hard. But he was mentioning that like we might have a period where there's not a lot of big things happening, and it's good because we need to have some fun for a little bit and to relax and to enjoy, right? This card talking about the alchemist being in the lab for so long, that they've disconnected from love and passion. And it's just, the work has just been like, oh, all work and no play makes Jane a dull girl, right? So we need to reconnect with that passion, with that play, with that fun, with pleasure, so that we can invite more of it in. And we need to celebrate all the work that we've just come through and give ourselves time to ruminate in what we've just accomplished. Because once things up level and start popping off in a positive way for us, it's going to be busy, 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 good busy. But again, we're going to need our strength. We're going to need our focus. We're going to need our energy. So we need to be doing the healing now. We need to offload any bad habits and patterns and mindsets and crappy attitudes now while we are in the beginning of this cycle, before we start going into the next one with all of our past problems following us into it. And then we've got Uranus here, which is, and then with Two of Pentacles. So this is literally like that lightning strike aha moments where all of a sudden it's just like, again, it's all coming together. It's all making sense. Suddenly we get it all. We see through the illusion. We see through the falsehoods. We see through the illusion and the falsehoods that others projected on us. And we see through the illusion and the falsehoods that we allowed ourselves to self-delude ourselves with, because we wanted to believe what we wanted to believe, but no longer, because we see that that's not, it's not sustainable. It's not real. It's only an illusion, and it's not secure. It's only an illusion of control. And that's more dangerous than just realizing that we have no control. Creators in control. We control ourselves. We control whether or not we are reactive, and we control the effort that we make to be able to use our free will. That's about it. So yeah, we can control how we show up to our own process, but we have no control over anything else really. So Uranus, this is like revelation that leads to revolution. We had Uranus last week. So this is a continuation of this like awakening and sudden like eureka. Oh my gosh, I get it. I see my patterns. I can see my way around them now. I'm not falling prey to my default settings as bad anymore. It's like we're capable of stepping up and getting control of all of this. Now, what's interesting is look at conjunctio has the infinity symbol here and that unity. Well, she is balancing this all on one foot, and she's got that infinity up in the air. She's juggling this. She's the one in control. She's got all the balls up in the air. And so basically it's like, okay, owning that sense of self, this new identity, even new relationships coming in, all of it. Like we have so much more self-control and self-awareness than we used to. So it's setting us up for the possibility to have healthier relationships and build healthier relationships than we ever had before. Because we're seeing things totally different. We have different perspective. We've gotten past so much of the unconscious stuff that was driving us to react certain ways and even show up to our lives in you know, our career, friendships, work relationships, romantic relationships, family relationships, everything, all of it. So there was another thing that was very helpful this week that I stumbled upon, and I put it in the description box below, but there's a link to a video where Mel Robbins is talking to Thais Gibson about attachment styles. And our attachment styles are basically the way that our emotions can handle relationships and the way that we react accordingly to that emotional threshold of relationships and uncertainty. And they were developed in us in our very, very, very early childhood, like between the ages of 0 and 2, I think. And then in like other schools of thought, like they talk about our inner child stuff getting planted in between 0 and 7. So between like 0 and 2, depending on how your needs were met or how you were handled at that age or what your environment was like around you, that is going to pretty much temper your given sense of security. And then from there, you have to work on it. So this video breaks down each attachment style and the core wound associated with it and the resulting pattern or behavior that would be attached to that. Then there is like a way to reprogram that pattern and behavior. And then there's a second video that they mention where they did a 21-day meditation that gets into your subconscious to help reprogram the subconscious while you're in an impressionable state. But so that's free. You can use that 21-day meditation. But if you guys are looking for like an ongoing support of rewriting your nervous system and rewriting your subconscious to be magnetic work, that's like their whole focus. It's like rewrite your subconscious, do the deep inner work, heal yourself, and then all of a sudden you're manifesting like crazy. So that's basically this reading. It's like healing your subconscious, unblocking that subconscious, expanding what you think is possible for yourself, deepening your self-worth, and all of a sudden we start manifesting like crazy. Our opportunities, our money, our dream life, our dream job, our dream home, where we feel secure and where we belong, like that partner that we want to come into our life, like all that can start coming together. But we need to be embodying the self that can create and sustain that life, right? But it's happening. So revelation that we are embodying. And so that's why we need to be kind of adaptable right now. I would suggest today going and reading the description box below, because I have attached the written blog from the post, which is there's just something more cohesive about how I was able to say all this in that. But I'm going to read Uranus. Okay. Awakening, brilliance, and individualism. When Uranus strikes, we are in for a surprise. Not in the outer world, but in ourselves. What wasn't possible before is possible now, thanks to Uranus, and its ability to shatter our preconceptions. This shift in perspective or identity brings newfound freedom and opens up dormant energy. For an alchemist, this may be experienced as a long-awaited aha moment or a sudden stroke of genius. Inventions and innovations are born under Uranus energy. This card may also appear to show us what is particularly unique about ourselves or another. A seemingly random or idiosyncratic quality may end up being the secret ingredient needed in the laboratory. The alchemist knows this radical energy isn't sustainable, and so the work is to show up each day whether or not Uranus strikes. So this is also like sudden inspiration and motivation and like, oh my gosh, let's get to it. But like in I think his name's Stephen Prescott, his book, The War of Art, he talks about, it's Going Pro. An amateur shows up when they're inspired. A pro shows up every day, no matter what. If you're a writer and you're a professional writer, you give yourself that block of time, however long it is. It's on average, it's an hour to 2 or 3 hours a day for writers. You sit there in front of a blank page if you have to, and you stare at it. And that's your 3 hours if you have nothing to write. But you are there. You are there. You have your time set aside, and you sit there, and you sit with it. And that is your devotion, and you're professional. We're getting to that point here, where we're not waiting around to try to cram when we're feeling inspired, right? We need consistency over long periods. It's like people who try to do these diets and they're like, oh, I'm cutting out all my carbs, I'm doing keto. And it's like, this is not sustainable. If you manage to lose 20 pounds in a week, it'll come back because you've gone back to your usual diet. It's like, you're better off to just make like realistic changes and like let them make incremental change over a long time. Like start being more active and get an exercise routine that you like, that you enjoy. And then eat food that's healthier, but you enjoy, and that you cook with like whole ingredients. So there's not all the binders and fillers. Like do things that are realistic, that give you a happy life, but that you can maintain from now on, right? Not just like try to make these small spurts of changes. Like for writing, if you're a writer, books that you write when you're inspired, you may write a chapter one day when you sit down on a great Saturday afternoon. But then that book will sit there for 5 years with no more work on it because you're not consistent. You don't show up every day. So consistently showing up and being devoted is going to make more difference in the long run. Not only that, but we need to show up to ourselves with commitment, devotion, consistency. We need to keep our promises to ourselves because this deepens our self-trust, it deepens our self-worth, and then it deepens our self-respect. It raises our vibration and it creates energy that draws in things that are higher value because we perceive ourselves as having higher value because we've invested in ourselves consistently. If we are not showing up to ourselves in a consistent, devoted, committed way, then we cannot expect to attract people who are going to show up for us in a devoted, committed, consistent way. We have to show ourselves. We have to be the relationship that we want. And that's true for like how we show up in our relationship to money, how we show up in our relationship to the work that we put in, to our efforts in our career, in our job, in our work. We have to do that in the way that we show up in our relationship with our health and our environment, right? All the ways that we want our outer world to show up for us, we need to be that for ourselves. We need to demonstrate that like vibrationally and literally to ourselves first, and then it will start attracting in more of the same. So let's see. A long-awaited aha moment or a sudden stroke of genius. Inventions and innovations are born under Uranus energy. This card may also appear to show us what is particularly unique. So I finished. So sustainable and show the work is to show up each day whether or not Uranus strikes. Uranus is aligned with the story of Prometheus. That's right, the fire god, but I don't know that myth. But look up Prometheus myth. That's all of our homework. Uranus is aligned with the story of Prometheus, the god of fire. Consider his myth and relate it to your own story. In what instances have you been Prometheus? Don't get attached to the Uranus energy. It can lead to restlessness or chasing inspiration. Always looking for the next best thing. Take its medicine as an occasional blessing. Oh, also, healing the father wound helps us heal our tendency to chase shiny objects or be non-committal or be unfocused or not consistent, right? It helps us heal the way we can show up. Again, back to that consistency and healing that Knight of Wands wound from the father wound. All right, y'all, that is all for tonight. I am tired, and I bet you are too after all this. It's a lot of information. All right, y'all, be good, but not too good. I'll see you tomorrow for our romance oracle reading. Ciao.